Teaching authority, miracles, Jewish expectations, and discipleship all come together in the ancient town of Capernaum. Visitors today can still see the ruins of St. Peter's house and the synagogue where Jesus likely read scripture and spoke with elders who held a different vision of the Messiah. It is also here that Jesus delivers the discourse recorded in John chapter 6.
After the multiplication of the loaves, it was right here that Jesus gave us the bread of life discourse. And the bread of life discourse, as John 6 tells us, is Jesus teaching that if you eat my body and drink my blood, you have life. You will have life in you. Now, what's interesting is people will say that, well, this was just figurative. No, we can read in there, Jesus, the language used teaches us that it is literal, because the Greek word, which the scriptures were written in, Greek, is trago or tragon. This is to gnaw, to chew literally with your teeth. He then added, and he who believes in me will not thirst. Now this is interesting because it was the Samaritan woman, a single individual in private, to an individual that Christ taught that I will give you drink. You will not be thirsty. Now he adds to that, you will not go hungry. But he adds this to a wider selection of people, now to a group of people right here at this synagogue. Now it's inside the synagogue that Jesus taught, not outside of Judaism. He's teaching to the Jews, and that's why we believe that Christ fulfills Judaism, their expectation of the Messiah. And so when Christ taught, he now establishes his church with the Eucharist as the source and summit, and that is the new Israel. The church is the new Israel. We don't replace Judaism, but we fulfill it.
Inside the ruins of the synagogue, George demonstrates how the scene would have unfolded when Jesus gave the John 6 discourse and how archaeology completes what is discovered in Scripture.
The moment you come into a synagogue, you'll find a bama over here, a stage. At the entrance over there, there'll be a cupboard with scrolls. The attendant, the Jewish attendant, sits over there. How do we know about the attendant? From Luke chapter 4, and the attendant gave him the scroll. So Jesus is sitting somewhere over here because it's only men who sits over here. Women will be on the other side. So Jesus sitting somewhere over here. He stands up from the benches over here. He comes straight to the bama, to the stage. He puts his prayer shawl on. Who sees him coming over here? The attendant. The attendant will go to the cupboard. He'll open the scrolls. He'll give it to Jesus. Jesus steps on the bama. He opens the scroll. He kisses it. He reads. But he does not use the seat of Moses to teach. That's why the people in Mark chapter 1 says, he teaches in authority or with authority, different than the rabbis, because he sits between the people over here and he starts his teachings.
For me, in my own side of view, is the cradle of Christianity, where Christianity started to spread along the Via Maris. Miracles that happened here, the quantity of the miracles happened here, it was the way to spread the word about the work of the Lord. And that's how we knew about the centurion coming in asking Jesus to heal. And it opens up the personality of Jesus being the divine person over here among those people, and the courage that he had to walk into a synagogue like this, which was a famous synagogue in a big Jewish city, claiming that he is and the Father is one. That is like something you have to be a lion to do this. You have to have that confidence.
Our guides, George and Tony, next take us to the house of St. Peter, not only his home before becoming the first pope, when he was Simon the fisherman, but also a place where the Lord was frequently present and performed miracles.
When he healed the man with an evil spirit, Mark chapter 1 tells us he leaves the synagogue and he goes to the house of Peter and his mother.
He literally just walked right across the street.
As we did, Father. Yes, yes. And of course, that place over here is not only according to tradition. We have more than 42 writings on the walls that were found.
That confirms
the authenticity of the place. The word Peter appears on the walls.
So
the word
when
Jesus
we look
as
out
well.
here, George, we're looking at the foundation of the house of Peter.
Absolutely. Father, if you look in there, you can see the rooms. The small rooms that we call insulae in Greek. Okay, the biggest one is exactly over there in the midst. that could fit between 24 up to 26 people. So Jesus was there, Peter was there, his mother-in-law was there. They come in, she was sick, he lays his hand on her and she was healed and she started waiting on them. There's another tradition by the Franciscan archaeologists that say that it could be the place where the crippled man was lowered from the roof, exactly over
One
here.
of my favorite passages.
This is the first one, first Domus Ecclesia, which became the first church in history, and that is the most inner part of this octagonal shape that came on later. And how do we know about this place? 350, a pilgrim by the name Etheria, she came in and she had her diary. And she mentions exactly what she saw at this site over here. That's how even the Byzantine knew where it was, and they built the octagonal-shaped church in the 400s on top of it, reconstructing the first century synagogue look like on top of the original one. But unfortunately, again, this church was destroyed by the Persians in 614. And for hundreds of years, nobody knew where it is. Until, guess what? Transjordan, in the Maraba church, that they discovered a mosaic floor, which was an actual map made for pilgrims, showing every direction that pilgrims had to come to. And one of the most obvious things in that mosaic floor was Capernaum. You see the octagonal-shaped church, and you see the synagogue in it. All the Franciscans had to do was to look for something that looks octagonal. 80s. They came in, they saw it, they dug it, it came out. The words of Peter and Jesus, you can see it on the rails over here, exactly was discovered in the house of Peter inside. And the architect decided to build this church in that kind of style in the 80s to be able to allow all the pilgrims to celebrate Mass on top of this house and be able to look from the top to the bottom through the glass floor.